the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
We did it again. Another great big giant Friday show for you. Thanks so much for being with us. I am Cy Kellett, your host, and I'm not kidding about it being a great big Friday show. Second hour, we bring you the second edition of the as yet unnamed Catholic Answers game show. We may not have the budget to pay for a name for the show, but we've put everything we've got into it, and you're going to love it. Hang around for the second hour. This hour, we talk movies, what's happening on the screens around the country this summer with Deacon Stephen Greydanus. Deacon Greydanus is a deacon now for 2 years. Is that right, Deacon Greydanus?
Just earlier this month, we celebrated our 2-year anniversary, the class of 2016 in the Archdiocese of Newark.
How beautiful. How beautiful. And it continues to be a joy to you to minister as a deacon?
Oh, absolutely. You know, there are many things in my life that I question, but never this. I became a deacon to serve the Church of God, to serve Jesus Christ, to answer a call, and to save my own soul. And that remains an absolute certainty in my life.
Well, congratulations on your 2-year anniversary. And I should let people know, you, in addition to being a deacon, you're the founder of decentfilms.com, a film critic for the film critic, really, for the National Catholic Register, a member of the New York Film Critics Circle, and a permanent deacon, as you said, in the Archdiocese of Newark. You also host with David DeSerto the Gabriel Award-winning cable TV show Real Faith for New Evangelization Television. I got that all right?
Yes.
And how do you maintain, I've always wondered about this, your membership in the Film Critics Circle, because that's a very prestigious group. Do you have to just continue writing great reviews, or what do you got to do?
Well, I'll be finishing. This is my first year as a member of the New York Film Critics Circle. So they haven't yet threatened to kick me out, but I did need to be sponsored for membership, and the members all had to vote, and it is a great honor, and I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. I'm guessing if you just stop writing reviews, they're going to kick you out. So you better keep going with that.
I can promise to do that.
I know that you're on vacation. I'm grateful that you joined us from your vacation palace. I don't even know where that is, but I do know you're near sand, because I saw on, it was Facebook where I saw it. I think you can also see it on Twitter, a sculpture that you made. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I've been doing sand sculpture all my life, ever since I was a kid. And when I went to art school in the late 80s, I studied comic book art, the human figure, and crucifixions have been a favorite study of mine for a long time. And I've been doing sand crucifixions now for a number of years. Sculpting our Lord in sand is something that it's both an act of devotion and an act of artistic satisfaction for me. And I love to do it because I love to engage the people that stop by to comment on it.
Right.
And it's very rewarding.
And so, will people just join you and watch while you sculpt and talk to you while you're doing your work?
Yeah, it usually takes until you're about 2/3 of the way through, and it really starts to look like something, and then people start to stop and talk and ask questions. And most often people will just express appreciation or something. They'll say, "Oh, that's really good," but then you have the people who really want to ask, so why do you sculpt Jesus? And then that, of course, gives me an opportunity to share my faith with them.
Mm-hmm. And is there some special skill to sculpting in sand like that? I mean, can you just use the beach sand? You got to bring your own sand? Do you need to wet it a certain way? What's the deal there with the sand?
That's a really good question. There are actually three. I'm not going to go into this in detail, but there are 3 different ways of doing sand sculpture. And when I do figures like Jesus, I use the simplest and most intuitive method, which is just hand packing wet sand. I just start when the tide goes out. I just begin sculpting it and molding it into shape. And I just keep working on whatever doesn't look right until it stops not looking right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. It's extraordinary. Now, people can see your sculpture because I think people will be amazed. Actually, I mean, even discussing it, you don't get a sense of really the beauty of it. Do you? Where can people see it?
I posted my photos of my sculpture of Jesus on the cross, both on my both on my Twitter and Facebook pages. So if you go to Twitter slash Decent Films, or you can also you can look for my name, Stephen Gridonis, on Facebook, and it's in both places.
Well, we're here to discuss film today. If you'd like to discuss the movies of the summer or you have a more general film question, give us a call, 888-318-7884, 888 truth If you prefer the spelled version, Stephen Greydonis is our guest. He is both a deacon and a film critic. And summer is, like, how does summer stack up with the rest of the year? Kind of a slow movie time, really. People are out doing other things. Is that correct, or have I missed something?
So, well, it used to be a fairly clear pattern in Hollywood movie land when it came to the release patterns. The early part of the year, January, February, March, was very slow. Hollywood dumped all of their bad movies at that time, and then when we got to Labor Day, things really started to pick up, and the
Oh,
summer movie season would get underway, the big blockbusters and so forth. And then the prestige movies, the movies that they hope will win Oscars, of course, come later in the year. But what Hollywood has been doing more and more is chasing that blockbuster dollar. They've become more and more focused on it. Everything is about that. And so the summer movie season has been slowly, relentlessly pushed back into April, into March, even into February. Black Panther is a quintessential summer movie, but it opens in February, so all bets are off now.
I see. Oh, and Black Panther did summer blockbuster kind of money, didn't it? It was very successful.
The last time I checked, it was still the number one film of 2018, I believe. It's probably going to be surpassed by Avengers Civil War, but that hadn't happened the last time I checked, I think.
I finally saw Avengers Civil War, and we talked about it last time. And I will just say this: I didn't find the ending totally satisfying.
Well, it wasn't meant to satisfy you. See, this is the
Yeah.
thing. It
Okay.
was meant to blow you away and to make you feel like your mind was blown. And most of all, it was meant to make you want to see the next Avengers movie
Right.
coming out in 2019. This is more and more what Hollywood blockbusters are doing. They're not trying to satisfy you. They want you to leave the theater not necessarily feeling satisfied, but anticipating the next movie.
Yeah. Well, I would have said this is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time if I knew there was no sequel. If they just ended it that way, I'd have said that is a brilliant ending. But you look at it and you go, okay, it's like this is intermission now. I'm going to take a 1 year intermission, and the story has to start up again.
That's right. And then it remains to be seen whether the next movie is going to give us anything like a conclusion. This is where I feel that the movies really ought to be different from television. In television, you invest 30 to 60 minutes once a week in
Yeah.
your favorite TV show, and they can afford to string it along. You have big noisy episodes, you have little quiet episodes. In the movies, everything has to be a major event because you're spending $12 and 2.5 hours of your life. They should give you a beginning, a middle, and an end, but that's not what's happening.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the summer movies. You said that Black Panther, to the best of your knowledge, was still the number one movie of 2018. I wonder if Jurassic World didn't. It follows on a very successful movie, right? The new Jurassic. It's the sequel to an extraordinarily successful movie. So might it topple Black Panther?
Probably not, but it's going to finish in the top 10 for 2018 for sure.
Okay.
Jurassic World was a huge movie. Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, as it's called, the continuation of the story. It turns out to be the middle movie in a projected Jurassic World trilogy. And like I said, the ending of this film is all about setting up the next one. So go into it
Ah.
forewarned with that knowledge. Chris Pratt is back. And he brings a lot of star power to this franchise. We've also got Bryce Dallas Howard. Both of their characters have been significantly rejiggered since the first film in response to criticism of the characters. But this is ultimately a it's a movie about the dinosaurs of the Jurassic World theme park, about the division between the heroes who want to try to save them from extinction, the villains who want to exploit them, and what happens in that space between the two.
Well, always, I imagine Jeff Goldblum is probably in it, and it always seems to me like he's the pivot of the whole Jurassic Park thing, and now Jurassic World, because he's the one who is trying to say, he's like the Cassandra, I guess. Would that be fair to say? He's like the Cassandra of these movies, that his warnings are never heeded, but they always come true.
Sure, and actually, he's actually only in this film for about a minute or two, very, very briefly giving testimony to Congress or something. And in the first film, he was the voice of the overarching moral theme of the franchise, which is about the dangers of technology in comparison to our responsible use of technology. He's the one who says, you were so busy thinking about whether you could that you didn't stop to think about whether you should. And that's a very potent message. It's one of the most quotable lines from the first film. That message gets a little lost in these new Jurassic World movies for a number of reasons. One of them is that the franchise is starting to become more cynical about humanity and about whether, in the first film, the idea that there are people who are dying, people who are out there among the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are great. We love to ooh and ah, but human lives are what matter. But as the series goes on, it falls more and more in love with the dinosaurs, and the humans become more and more expendable.
Oh, is that weird? Do you think that is just exhaustion of the makers of the franchises, or these extended trilogies and whatnot of dinosaurs, or do you think that that's actually our culture is on that kind of arc vis-a-vis human beings?
It's a really interesting question, and I think it's a little bit of both. I think that anytime you have a franchise, a monster movie franchise that goes on and on, the monsters increasingly take over the franchise. They become the subjects rather than just the kind of instigating force.
Right.
But at the same time, from the Planet of the Apes series to Avengers, the Avengers movie, as we were just talking about, to a lot of other movies in recent years, the idea of apocalypse, the idea of the end of mankind, is clearly on Hollywood's mind. And the question is, are these movies cautionary tales? Are they warning us about the danger that could befall us? Which I think is what's happening in the Planet of the Apes franchise, at least certainly in the middle movie, the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Or is there a real streak of nihilism and something that I have called post-human porn? That was something that I worried about in the first Planet of the Apes movie, the idea that,
Wow.
mankind is on the way out, and maybe that's a good thing.
Wow. See, a phrase like that, that's why you're in the New York Film Critics Circle, that kind of stuff. That is right. Post-human porn, because they even used to make this TV show called After Humans, and it would tell all the cool stuff that would happen once people were gone. That is a great little line.
I actually cited that TV show in my review of Rise of the Planet of the Apes as a point of contrast. And I'm not necessarily saying that After People is post-human porn or that Planet of the Apes is post-human porn, but I think it's something that we need to be concerned about, and it's something that we need to watch out for, because I think that potential is definitely out there in the culture.
Stephen Greydanus is our guest. As you heard, he is a member of the New York Film Critics Circle. He is the film reviewer for the National Catholic Register, which you should be reading. It's a fine, fine publication. And he is a deacon. But most importantly, he's our guest. We're talking movies, Summers movies. I'm going to ask him about The Incredibles. I want to ask him about Mr. Rogers, maybe about Han Solo. We'll get to all that right after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Catch Catholic Answers Live anytime at Catholic.com.
Pope Francis said, "All of us are called to mature in our work as evangelizers. We want to have better training, a deepening love, and a clearer witness to the gospel. St. Paul Street Evangelization's online school of evangelization will equip you with the tools you need to be an effective evangelist. We'll ask for a pledge of financial support, but if you're unable to give, we'll set you up for free. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
This is Tim Staples, and I'm really excited to tell you about a special limited-time offer we've got right now on subscriptions to our award-winning Catholic Answers magazine. Sign up today during our annual subscription drive, and not only can you save big bucks off the normal price, we'll give you a digital subscription to the magazine for free. Subscribe today by calling 818-487-2011 or logging online to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com. Sign up for a one-year subscription and we'll give you $10 off the normal price. Better yet, become a 2-year subscriber and we'll up the ante by dropping the price $20. That's a saving of $10 to $20 plus a free digital subscription when you sign up for a subscription to Catholic Answers magazine. Act now. This is our best offer of the year, and it's only available for a limited time. Subscribe to Catholic Answers magazine before our annual subscription drive ends. Phone 818-487-2011 or go to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com today.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live, Great Big Friday Show. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Don't forget, next hour, the Unnamed Game Show. We play that with our top secret celebrity guest, who I do not want to let you know who that is, but I will just let you know Jimmy Akin's in the building. 888-31-TRUTH is our number here. We're talking movies with film critic and deacon Stephen Greydanus. 888-318-7884 is the number. Deacon Greydanus, we have calls coming in already. Shall we take one?
Yeah, sure.
Nathan in West Virginia, listening on 90.7 FM. You are on with Deacon Stephen Greydanus. Your question, please.
Hi, sir. So I am a relatively recent Catholic convert. I used to be an atheist, and when I was an atheist, I enjoyed watching certain films, especially my favorite was David Lynch, Inland Empire, if you've ever seen that one. And it's very, in my opinion, very artistic, very profound. Also has so much nudity and sexuality, and I don't know what quite to do about that anymore. I mean, is this type of film that's artistic but also has so much nudity, is this simply unsuitable for Christian viewing? Should we shun it entirely? Should I fast forward and skip over through the scenes with nude people in them? What do you think, sir?
First of all, welcome home and congratulations. It's great to have you as part of God's family. I have not seen the specific film that you talk about, and honestly, I haven't seen a lot of David Lynch films. I have seen a few, and so one of the main issues that I deal with in my work is this issue of the portrayal of all kinds of potentially morally problematic content, including nudity and sexuality, violence, and so on. And all of these issues raise important moral questions, and they can certainly be morally objectionable. They can make a film morally offensive. They can be degrading to humanity, to the humanity of the actors, to the humanity of the viewer. There are no absolute hard and fast rules, except when it comes to things like pornography. I mean, obviously pornography, where the intent is to elicit an immoral response from the viewer, and it's intended for that. That's obviously totally wrong. Pope John Paul II has written about the use of nudity in art in his Theology of the Body Talks. And what he talks about as far as the moral problem of it is the human body, the nude human body has what he calls a nuptial dimension. In other words, it is a gift that is meant to be received by one, the husband to his wife, the wife to her husband. But then you take that nude body and you make a painting of it, or a sculpture, or a photograph, or a film. And suddenly, what ought to have a nuptial meaning for one becomes an object intended for the consumption of many. And so Pope John Paul talks about how this is a moral problem. But he also says that it is a moral problem that art can potentially overcome through a process of sublimation, whereby the body becomes a symbol or a representation of something larger than just one person. This can certainly happen in sculpture and painting. It can even happen in photography and film. There are still questions around the possibility of arousing an illicit response to art, of becoming an occasion of sin, but that's not always the case. Some obvious examples would include when you see nudity in a disturbing context, like concentration camp nudity in Schindler's List, or perhaps what's been called ethnographic nudity in a film like The Mission, where you see, Native Americans, in this case, Guarani Indians from South America, walking around in various states of undress. And depending on the sensibilities of the viewer, these things need not be occasions of sin. So cross-examining a work of art and saying, are the actors being exploited? Is this degrading? Are they doing things that people should not be asked to do? Is this an occasion of sin for me? These are the kinds of questions that we have to ask. There aren't hard and fast answers, but these are some of the principles that you begin to use to unpack these questions. I've written about this quite a bit at my website. You can start with my article, What Are the Decent Films?, at my website, decentfilms.com. I hope that helps just for a beginning.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I think something I wonder is I get the impression that a lot of today's R-rated films, I mean, they may not be pornography as a whole, but that they definitely throw scenes in there that really are just for the purpose of producing a physical response in the audience, to be quite candid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And frankly, you don't need nudity to do that. I mean, you can do that with a fully clothed model in a potato chip commercial, try to elicit a prurient reaction from the viewer. But it's absolutely, and it's not only on the big screen, they do this on the small screen too. They throw in the titillation. I've heard from many Christian fans of TV shows like Game of Thrones, and some of them are passionate fans of the show in spite of the heavy use of nudity and sexuality and rape and so forth. And other people say, this is pornography. I haven't seen Game of Thrones and I can't speak to that specifically, but certainly this is an issue that confronts us everywhere we turn in popular culture. And I will say that as Christians, we have to be willing to make decisions about popular culture that are very different from the decisions that our non-Christian neighbors make, because we live in a post-Christian society. We live in a society where, as Pope Paul VI said, the drama of the separation of the gospel and the culture is the central story of our times. So what other people consider as acceptable, we have to be willing to cross-examine from the perspective of the gospel. It doesn't mean that we have to be Puritans and to reject, any movie that has any kind of nudity in it. But if the intent is to be prurient and to elicit, to appeal to those base instincts, then obviously that's something that we have to reject.
Nathan, thank you so much for your call, and again, welcome. So happy that you have come home. How much of your job do you feel, Deacon Greidanus, is, everybody knows that Jurassic World is coming out. If you have any contact with media of any kind in the world, you know. But there are many very fine movies that I think people don't know about at all. How much of your job do you think is to give those movies a chance, lead people to them?
Not as big a part as I'd like. Unfortunately, I spend more of my time than I'd like commenting on the big blockbuster movies, because that's what people want to see and that's what gets the clicks. But when I can introduce someone to a film like Won't You Be My Neighbor, the documentary about Fred Rogers, or a movie like The Rider, a beautiful film about a young Lakota Sioux rodeo star, it has a documentary-like feel, and it's based on the life of the actor who plays the lead part, and he's a Christian. And that film is also there are spiritual themes to both of these films, The Rider and Won't You Be My Neighbor. When I can introduce people to movies like this, that's the best part of the job.
But where can you see where can you see documentaries? Like I don't. Do you have to live in a big city? Where do they show them? Because I don't see these making their way into theaters.
It does help to live near a major market like New York. This is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why, my mother lives in Florida, and she's always hoping that I'm going to move down there. I always have to say I have to stay near New York so I can see all the little movies, not just the big movies.
You're right. Right.
But even if you don't live somewhere where there's an art house film where these little movies come eventually, you just have to watch for them on Amazon and Netflix.
A whole bunch more movies to get to with Deacon Stephen Gradanis, film critic extraordinaire for the National Catholic Register. 888-318-7884 is our number if you'd like to talk with Deacon Gradanis. I've mentioned the titles of several movies that we haven't gotten to yet. We will get to those. I also want to talk to you about those two movies you just mentioned. Smaller movies, but movies we should know about. More of that after this on Catholic Answers Live.
There's only one Catholic Answers Live.
Now there's a fast and easy way to get in touch with EWTN. The EWTN Everything number. Call 1-800-447-EWTN to get the latest information on programming, special events, pilgrimages, and more. Our EWTN Family Viewer Services representatives are ready to help you with whatever your needs may be. The EWTN Everything number. 1-800-447-EWTN. EWTN.
What difference does it make who or what you worship or what you believe? Sharing the faith used to make some people mad because it challenged their own strong beliefs. Today, it makes a lot of people yawn because they don't have strong beliefs about anything. Religious indifference is the great spiritual sickness of our age, a product of the relativism that dominates modern culture. This is Matt Nelson, and in my new book, Just Whatever, I'll take down the building blocks of religious indifference one by one. We'll look at the different kinds of indifference you tend to encounter in your friends and family members to see where they come from and why they're seductive. What you believe matters. Find out why and what to do about it in my new book, Just Whatever. You can order your copy of Just Whatever by calling 1-888-291-8000, by visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Did you know that Catholic Answers Live is on TV? What began as a monthly series on EWTN in April of 2017 is now going to be coming to you on a weekly basis. You can catch Catholic Answers Live TV Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on EWTN, with an encore at 2:30 a.m. on Sundays. We'll also be available soon on Apple TV, Roku, and the Augustine Institute's multimedia platform, Form. Make a point of making Catholic Answers Live TV part of your weekly viewing, and we'll see you on the airwaves. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Great Big Friday show. It's summertime. At least that's what they told me yesterday, that summer started. The first thing that I thought was, oh no, that means that summer's almost over. I don't know why I have that reaction. Like, I love summer so much that as soon as it starts, my first thought is, oh my gosh, the hours are ticking away. Summer's almost over. But summer is big, giant movie time, and Deacon Stephen Gradanis occupies himself a good part of his life watching films, writing about films, thinking about films, and today talking about films with us. Deacon Gradanis, a caller wanted to know, who I didn't want to talk, but just wanted to know about are there Christian film critics associations, and are you part of those?
There have been a number of organizations around a group of Christian cinephiles that I've been a part of for a long time. There's a message board called Arts and Faith, artsandfaith.com, that I've been a part of for a while. And we were known for a while, some of us, as the Promontory Film Critics Circle. Today, what I do now is I vote every year in the Arts and Faith Ecumenical Jury Awards. So every year we vote on the films that we consider to have the most spiritual significance. Everyone's allowed to interpret that in their own way, and those lists always bring a lot of a lot of interesting films to the fore.
And that's still continuing? You still do that?
Yeah. So in 2017, for instance, some of the films that we that made our top 10 list included my personal top film of the year, Graduation, which is a Romanian film.
Okay.
Darren Aronofsky's Mother, The Unknown Girl by the Dardenne brothers. Those were among the films of the Arts and Faith Ecumenical Jury of 2017. And if you're interested in discussion of that kind, check out artsandfaith.com.
Artsandfaith.com. Very good. I'm glad that caller called to ask that. If you'd like to speak with Deacon Gradanis about film in general or about a particular film this either coming out this summer or maybe has come out recently, 888-318-7884 is the number. Deacon Michael in Tulsa, Oklahoma, listening on St. Michael Catholic Radio, is on the line. Deacon Michael, your question for Deacon Stephen.
Hi, Deacon Stephen. I teach at a Catholic high school in Tulsa, and every year I teach a short 1-month course on Star Wars. We talk about Joseph Campbell and the monomyth. We talk about the spirituality of Star Wars. And I've done this for about 6 years now, and I'll be honest, I'm getting kind of, A, sick of it, and B, having a harder and harder time fitting the whole franchise into this kind of discussion because it feels like it's going off the rails. I just wondered if you had any overall thoughts on that, and maybe Solo in particular.
So I have certainly been concerned about the fate of, Star Wars has been a very important story for many of us for a long time. When it burst onto the scene in 1977, it changed the way people think. It changed the face of popular culture. It offered us this powerful metaphor, the Force, for exploring ideas of mystery and spirituality. The Jedi brought a religious dimension to a genre, science fiction, where it had often not been present. George Lucas obviously drew on some Eastern themes and elements, on samurai cinema and wuxia fiction, but also on Western traditions, on The Lord of the Rings and on King Arthur and so forth. And he formed a myth that was really something uniquely American, but also drawing on all these other themes. What is happening now under the kind of sponsorship, the corporate sponsorship of Disney, is that the Star Wars brand is moving away from what I would call its mythic roots and is becoming more and more a franchise where any number of stories can be told about any number of characters with all kinds of arcs. We can, instead of having, the hero rebels and the evil empire, which is a kind of a mythic Tolkien-esque thing, instead you can tell morally complex tales like Rogue One, where the rebels engage in what look to me an awful lot like acts of urban terrorism. You can explore more complicated characters on both sides of the divide. It's not just white hats and black hats, which is what I think Star Wars in its essence should be. I think you also run into trouble when you move away from the creative inspiration of an individual like George Lucas, and whatever problems you can say about him and however he sabotaged his own work, without someone like George Lucas at the helm, that those great moments in, say, The Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader tells Luke, "I am your father," that's not something that a Disney corporate board would have okayed. Or the redemption of Darth Vader. It's just this tremendously bold stroke in Return of the Jedi. It's akin to taking a figure like the Wicked Witch of the West or Hannibal Lecter and turning them into a good guy. It's unthinkably bold. I'm not saying that Star Wars is perfect, or that everything about it is wonderful, or that it's not also very silly and very cardboard characters and bad dialogue. All of that is true, but these powerful elements are there, and what's happening is that Star Wars is becoming slicker. It's the dialogue is better, and they make fewer of the mistakes that George Lucas made, but those moments of inspiration are being kind of smoothed out, and we're being sold something that doesn't satisfy on that mythic level. That's how I see it.
Deacon?
Well, thank you. You really articulated a lot of my gut feelings about the whole thing.
Yeah, there's a way, and our art is really not a job for a committee, maybe, or for maybe even if a committee could make it, it's not a job for a corporate board.
I think that's really true. It's very seldom that you have a committee that comes together and makes a successful film. I think Casablanca is one of the few examples of a movie that you could say was successfully made by a committee. I mean, you take a film like Solo. It's a film that has a certain mission that it wants to accomplish. It wants to explain how you do the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. It wants to tell us how Han Solo met Chewbacca. But in the process, one of the things that Star Wars has always done is it's given us images of wonder and beauty. We've always, from the very beginning, we looked at Star Wars and we saw things no one had ever seen before. And that power of beauty in art is one of the most powerful things that cinema can do. There are no memorable images in Solo. There's not one single thing like in the original Star Wars, that moment where you see the TIE fighter going, the Star Destroyer going overhead, and it just keeps going and going and going. Right. Or the images of that when we first see the planet of Naboo in Episode 1. You know, it's just beautiful, the capital city. Lucas came up with these really striking images, and beauty is one of the three transcendentals: goodness, truth, and beauty. Star Wars gave us images of beauty. I don't see that happening in Solo.
Deacon Michael, thanks so much for the chance to talk about Star Wars a little bit.
Thank you very much.
All right, 888-318-7884, our number. We're talking movies with Deacon Stephen Greydanus, film critic, and as I said, Deacon. And I'm going to ask you about one that I actually got to go on a date with my wife to see, Ocean's 8.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I like the excitement in your voice when I say that, because I had generally positive feelings about it. But tell me, am I wrong?
Well, you know, nobody can tell you that you're wrong. If you got something good out of a movie, I would never tell anyone, oh, you shouldn't have enjoyed that movie, unless I think that the movie was flatly immoral. As it happens, I also saw Ocean's 8 with my wife on a date, and we had a good time. It's a movie that is all about style and attitude and watching movie stars have a good time making a movie. You know, it's in a way, it's a little bit like the Mission Impossible movies. The plot doesn't really matter. What matters is that the actors are having a good time and we're having a good time watching them. It's a heist movie, obviously, and so it falls in a genre of a long list of movies. There's a famous example of a heist movie that is on the 1995 Vatican film list, The Lavender Hill Mob, starring Alec Guinness. It's about a gold robbery, and in this movie, there's a very clever plot involving the Met Gala, which we heard so much about this past year,
right?
With the Vatican, the sacred artifacts and so forth.
Well, can I tell you, part of what I really enjoyed about Ocean's 8 is, and maybe, I don't know if you did, but it's basically a male movie that's been made 3 times before.
Yes, and 11, 12, and 13.
Right, and then also before that there was the Frank Sinatra version, which was okay. I'll just lay my cards on the table. The Frank Sinatra version was a terrible movie, and I thought that the Ocean's 11 that followed it was a mediocre movie followed by 2 terrible movies, and so I do not like these movies very much, but I liked the fact that the women were playing the parts that had previously been played by men. Basically, is what was happening. And especially the 2 stars, Sandra Bullock, who's wonderful, and Cate Blanchett, they literally have the same hair color as the 2 guys in the original. You know, George Clooney and Brad Pitt. They're playing George Clooney and Brad Pitt, and I thought it was great. It was just fun.
There's clearly been an underemphasis in Hollywood movies on making movies about women, and that's because most producers are men, most screenwriters are men, most directors are men, and men think like men and they tell stories about men. It's just what people do. I love the story about the little rich girl Hollywood producer who was told to write a story about poverty, and her story went like this. Once there was a young girl who was very poor. Her father and mother were poor. The gardener was poor. The chauffeur was poor. The butler was poor. The nanny was poor. They were all very, very poor. And it's the same thing with men. We think like men, and we tell stories about men.
Right.
So, a lot of people were very upset with the all-female, gender-flipped Ghostbusters remake. And that's, Ghostbusters is like Star Wars. For many people, it's a sacred text from their youth. One of the things I think works about Ocean's 8 is none of these movies have ever been anyone's idea of a masterpiece. Nobody's childhood is going to be ruined if Ocean's 8 doesn't live up to somebody's idea of what it should be.
Right.
It just has to be fun, and it is.
And it's fun, and it's also, people might roll their eyes a little bit with, we have to do everything a gender opposite way, but they know that they're doing it, and they're having fun with it. And that's, I liked it. So I'm glad I'm not wrong in liking it. Let me ask you about those two. You named two smaller films, and I want to just ask you about those. We got to take a quick break, but one of them is on Mr. Rogers, right?
Won't You Be My Neighbor? This is a documentary. It's a celebration of the 50th anniversary of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which was started in 1968. It's by Morgan Neville, the documentarian who also made 20 Feet from Stardom.
Okay, and then the other is the one that you talked about. It's called The Rider. It's about a Christian Native American cowboy. I want to hear about these two films, especially Mr. Rogers, because I grew up with Mr. Rogers, as maybe you did as well. I don't know. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more discussion of film with Deacon Stephen Greydonis right after this.
Every question is important. Ask yours today on Catholic Answers Live.
Catholic Answers is doing it again. We're holding our 5th annual Apologetics Conference this September in beautiful San Diego, California, and we'd like to see you there.
We've had a wonderful time going home all enthused.
Every time we come here, it's just an incredible experience.
Normally you'd have to root through a dozen different books to get half the stuff I've learned here.
These guys are so amazing. I always get so much, learn so much. I've already signed up for next year.
Join us this September 27th to the 30th for a lively and inspiring conference with an all-star lineup of speakers guaranteed to jumpstart your faith. All of your favorite Catholic Answers apologists and special keynote speaker Raymond Leo Cardinal Burke.
I enjoy the atmosphere and the friendliness of the people, and I'm having a great time.
I love it. I'm so glad I came here.
I've just learned so much. I've been a Catholic all my life. It's just been so wonderful.
I love it. I want to come back every year.
What difference does it make who or what you worship or what you believe? Sharing the faith used to make some people mad because it challenged their own strong beliefs. Today, it makes a lot of people yawn because they don't have strong beliefs about anything. Religious indifference is the great spiritual sickness of our age, a product of the relativism that dominates modern culture. This is Matt Nelson, and in my new book, Just Whatever, I'll take down the building blocks of religious indifference one by one. We'll look at the different kinds of indifference you tend to encounter in your friends and family members to see where they come from and why they're seductive. What you believe matters. Find out why and what to do about it in my new book, Just Whatever. You can order your copy of Just Whatever by calling 1-888-291-8000, by visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Homeschool Connections, an online provider of courses for your Catholic homeschool, is a sponsor of Catholic Answers Live. Homeschool Connections website is homeschoolconnections.com.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live, just 15 minutes away now from the great big giant Friday unnamed game show with our super secret celebrity guest. I do not want to let the cat out of the bag on that one. That is something that I just want to keep close to the vest. You'll have to tune in next hour to find out who our super secret celebrity guest is, and about his various books, including A Daily Defense and The Fathers Know Best. I want to remind you right now that we have a huge giant sale going on at shop.catholic.com. Things priced $10, $5, as low as $1, like good stuff too, from some of the best apologists out there. I know, as a matter of fact, I even saw it today that Tim Staples' book, Behold Your Mother, which is a great book, was $10 on there. So if I couldn't just go steal it from Tim's office whenever I want to, I'd have bought it. You go to shop.catholic.com. All these things on sale, $5, $10, $1. It just goes through June. And when you make your order, all shipping, as doesn't matter how many things you buy, it's like a flat rate shipping. It all gets to you for $5 anywhere in the continental United States. I don't know how much it costs outside of there. I know I made a promise on the show yesterday that I would send a book to a woman in Nigeria, and I just saw the bill for that, and I'm guessing they're not going to let me do that anymore. So, but the continental United States, you get free shipping. Just go to shop.catholic.com. Deacon Stephen Greydanus is our guest this hour. We are talking about films. I want to know about the Mr. Rogers film. He was such a huge part of the American childhood.
Yes, he was. He was absolutely a defining figure, and for a few years in the early lives of many people of my generation and of subsequent generations, he showed us the way. He told us what life was all about, and he didn't shy. He was very gentle, but he didn't shy away from some of the more difficult aspects of life. He helped us to understand our feelings, and if we all remembered those lessons and if we all lived by them, I think we all know that the world would be a much better place. Unfortunately, he was a kind of a voice in the wilderness on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we as a result, we live in a world that's very different from Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. But we all still know deep down that Mr. Rogers was right. And that's why he's become such a powerful figure. He was an unlikely TV star. Now he's an unlikely internet celebrity and icon. Every time something bad happens, everybody breaks out the Mr. Rogers quotes. And I think that really speaks to our understanding that there's something lacking in our culture, something that we've lost.
Well, and the thing that he did was he spoke beautifully to very small children. I think part of why he can be so easily parodied is he's speaking to very small children in a way that's really appropriate to very small children. It's very safe to them, very inviting to them, and it's not like just hitting a comedic beat every 8 seconds with crazy sounds and that kind of thing. I wonder if you share that sense with me.
So yes, one of the things that the documentary "Won't You Be My Neighbor" brings out is that Mr. Rogers saw, on the one hand, great potential in television. He believed that television had the power to unite the nation as one neighborhood. But on the other hand, he was appalled by the tone and the abrasiveness of so much of what he saw, even in those early days of television, pies in the face and insults and that kind of rapid fire. He felt that was difficult for children. He wanted to slow things down. He wanted to create a very gentle, non-threatening space for children. And that was what he thought was needed, but it's also who he was. It came right from his personality. One of the things that comes across in this documentary is, people see Mr. Rogers on television and they wonder, was he like that in real life? And he absolutely was.
That's wild to think about it. And he was, you said his Christian faith was a big part of what drove him.
He was an ordained Presbyterian pastor, and he was studying at seminary in Pittsburgh at the same time that he was learning about child psychology and also learning about television. And he went back and forth as to what he wanted to do, and he was ultimately ordained, but his calling, he felt, was to work in television. And while his show wasn't preachy, one of his friends in the documentary says, he wore a sweater instead of a collar, but he preached.
Boy, did he.
He wasn't. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he did. We have several callers for you, and I do monopolize sometimes, and I want to make sure I get to these callers. Let's go to Henry in Nebraska. Henry, thanks so much for your call. Your question for Deacon Stephen Greydanus.
So my question, I have two questions, but first one is, Marvel has a lot of big superhero movies, but which ones would you recommend?
Very, very quickly, the Marvel movies that I enjoy the most and that I've rewatched the most include the original Iron Man from 2008, because I think it's got the best redemption story. I think it's got the most moral center of any of the Marvel movies, with the possible exception of Black Panther. That would be another one I would recommend. The original Captain America is also, I think, very good. I like the first Avengers movie because of the way that it pits the characters of Captain America and Iron Man against one another, kind of challenges Tony's selfishness and challenges him to rise to a higher level of moral self-sacrifice than he would have been capable of without that kind of goading from Iron Man. And also Joss Whedon does a really great job of writing these characters and bringing them together. I'm also a fan of the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Very funny, very witty, with a lot of sarcasm and humor, but also with a real moral foundation to it. It's afraid to let that morality come wholly to the front without undercutting it with the comedy, but it does come through, especially in the end, when a character tells the heroes about his family that is now safe because of their heroics. Those are the ones that stand out to me the most.
Okay.
You had another question, Henry?
So the sequels.
Oh, go ahead.
And so the sequels don't tend to be as good.
For the most part, that's probably the case. I mean, I enjoy the airport fight scene in Captain America: Civil War as much as anyone, but I think it's the movies become, after a while, they become all middle movie. They don't have that beginning, middle, and end structure that they tend to have in the beginning. And then the second Guardians of the Galaxy film, I think, gets bogged down with some nasty elements, some misogyny and some excessive violence that I think is really morally problematic.
Yeah, okay. And then my second question is, what do you think about the hero versus hero movies like Batman versus Superman and like Captain America: Civil War?
I think that it's certainly part of the comic book mythology. We've always pitted our heroes against each other, and I think it can be interesting. I think it can be revealing, or sometimes it's just a question of who's more powerful and who would win in a fight. But ultimately, it comes down to the story and the motivations. And I think in both of those movies, that element is really undercut. I think Batman versus Superman jumped the gun by having these characters fight the very first time that they meet, so that they don't have the established relationship that's part of the previous mythos, like in Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns and the comic books. When Batman and Superman fight, there's a whole backstory there that's missing. And I think it can lead to a certain kind of a nihilism, because, instead of heroes being united around the positive things that they're supposed to be fighting for, the only thing we can think of to do is to have them fight each other. And where is the heroism in that? Who are you supposed to admire or look up to in that?
Henry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say thanks for your call, Henry, because I want to try to get one more caller in before we have to go, okay?
Okay, yeah, no problem.
A call anytime. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Let's go to Tony in Iowa. Tony, you're going to have to state your question kind of quick so that Deacon can give you a full answer.
Will do. Just wanted to talk about a really phenomenal movie, of course, The Exorcist. I look up to the movie. I think it was very well made. It portrays the priesthood in such a heroic light. However, it's difficult for me to go back and watch it because it is just so... It's almost a little too good, you know what I mean? And I wonder, have you ever struggled with that? Is that a movie that you ever go back and rewatch? Is that one that you own? I own it, but I tend to just keep it on the shelf, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I also own it, and it's been on my shelf for a long time. It's been a very long time since I've watched it. It's certainly a hugely important film in American cinema. It's really the kind of pivotal film between old school Hollywood piety, the Hollywood piety of the Golden Age, and the later exorcism themed films where the church is really touted as having the goods against the powers of darkness. I think it really comes from a place of spiritual struggle from the novelist and the screenwriter, not so much the director. And so I think it's an important film, and I think it has a lot of respect for the Catholic Church. I think it's still ultimately a somewhat problematic and exploitative film. I can't wholeheartedly endorse it, but I appreciate its importance, and I appreciate the fact that it has pointed a lot of people to the Catholic Church and to the priesthood.
Okay, Tony?
All right, thank you very much. Oh, and just a quick shout out to Enemy Mine, amazing science fiction movie from 1985. Not sure how many other listeners think it's amazing, but I do.
Oh, is that the one where we got to go. Go ahead real quick.
Real quick, I just wanted to mention I have an article on exorcism in the movies at Decent Films that discusses this film in its context of other films on this topic.
Decentfilms.com?
Decentfilms.com.
Decentfilms.com. Deacon Stephen Greydanus, thank you so much for another fine hour discussing film. I hope we will make it a more regular thing. It's always insightful and helpful to us, and really movies are at the heart of our culture in many ways these days. Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We are a cinema culture, and even as you know, the theatrical experience is going away, we watch these movies on Blu-ray, DVD, and streaming. They'll be with us forever.
And despite the somewhat unsatisfactory review, I'm probably going to have to see Solo. Thank you, Deacon Greydanus, again. We really appreciate it. Coming up next, the great, big, giant, as yet unnamed Catholic Answers game show with our super secret celebrity guest.
When people say science contradicts faith, they usually define faith as believing without evidence, or believing in spite of whatever the evidence may say. Science may contradict that definition of faith, but not the traditional understanding of faith. In the broadest sense, faith is just a kind of trust we have in another person or thing. We might say, for example, I have faith that John will finish our group project. Even scientists have faith that the laws of nature will operate the same way in all times and places, even though they can't prove the laws of nature will always do this. For Catholics, faith is the theological virtue by which we believe in God and believe all that He has said and revealed to us. If God does exist, then it's perfectly reasonable for people to trust or have faith in God, just as we would have faith or trust in other people. This includes trusting what God has revealed to an individual through something like prayer, or in a public way through things like the Bible or the teachings of the church. But doesn't having faith mean you don't have evidence for what you believe? After all, if you had enough evidence, you wouldn't need faith. But consider this. According to the United States Parachute Association, 99.99% of skydivers survive their jumps. Now, imagine you're wearing a parachute. You know it's been packed correctly. You step toward the door of the plane, and as you look down at the ground 2 miles beneath your feet, you see the tops of the clouds passing by. I ask you this, are you nervous? Probably. Even with so much evidence that you will survive jumping out of an airplane, you still need to trust that evidence. You still need to make a leap of faith. This is not a blind leap or belief without evidence. It's a reasonable belief that trusts a conclusion based on the weight of the evidence. For Catholic Answers, I'm Trent Horn, and thanks for watching. When people say science contradicts faith, they usually define faith as my new podcast. That's TrentHornPodcast.com.
Those who help themselves. Preach the gospel always. When necessary, use words. Sayings like these are such a part of tradition that we assume they come from the Bible, the saints, or famous Christian writers. Even though nobody can seem to place their origin, by sheer repetition, they have acquired a halo of truth. In What the Saints Never Said, Trent Horn takes over 40 of these well-known but actual dubious sayings and attempts to track them to their true source. The result? He finds some that are close to what was really said, many that were misattributed or twisted beyond their original meaning, and more than a few that were just plain made up. By setting the record straight, Trent roots out theological errors that can lead us away from Christian truth and offers authentic quotes from Scripture, saints, and scholars that will draw you closer to that truth. Get your copy of What the Saints Never Said today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
It's that time again. Time for the Catholic Answers as Yet Unnamed game show. You can play along at home, test your knowledge of the Catholic faith, play with the kids, Grandma, Grandpa, Uncle Fester, Lurch, the whole gang. I am your game show host, Cy Kellett, and it's time to introduce this week's super secret celebrity guest. You know him as the world-famous robo-apologist, the Commander Data on the Bark of Peter. Please give a great big game show welcome to Jimmy Akin. Calm the cheering down. People, sit down, everybody.
You know, with those Addams Family references, I do resemble Cousin It, especially if I'm wearing my bowler and sunglasses.
Cousin It was the hair guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But who was that was Thing?
Thing was
the hand that pointed around. Yeah, that to me was the
and
creepiest.
His Thing's girlfriend was named?
I have no clue.
Ladyfingers.
Oh, nice. Nicely done, Addams Family. I think you and I have a disagreement on that. We're going to get to the game show. Don't worry. It's a great big game show. But I am more of a Munsters fan, and I think you're more of
I'm more Addams
Family fan.
I like them both, but...
Yeah, they are both. Yeah,
I like the Addams Family because they don't fit into easily identifiable categories the way the Munsters do.
Oh, yeah, right. That's right. Yeah. Well, let's introduce our contestants on the Great Big Game Show today. The way you get to be a contestant on the game show is, first of all, you have to be a member of Radio Club, which is just, you give us your email address and we send you an email each week with all kinds of cool free stuff. If you would like to join Radio Club, you just go to CatholicAnswersLive.com, and there's a little banner that'll pop up. You put your email address in there, and you become a member of Radio Club. You become our best friend for life, and you become eligible to play on the game show. Our two guests today are Contestant 1 and Contestant 2. But they have other names as well. Contestant 1, I believe, do I have this correct? Is Contestant 1 Eric? Okay, Contestant 1 is Eric Witt.
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One. Are you there, Eric?
Yes, I'm here. I thought I was Contestant 2.
Oh, so I just got him in the wrong order here. I knew something. Well, you know what? We have these technical difficulties at the beginning, so I will now refer to you as Contestant number 2, Eric Witt. Eric, where are you calling from, and what's interesting about you?
I'm calling from Navarre, Florida. I'm a little east of Pensacola, Florida, in the Panhandle here. I grew up in Chicago. I consider myself a cradle Catholic, only that I was baptized as a baby Catholic, and it took me several years to come back into the church. Now I'm happily married for 27 years now, and I'm ready to play the game.
All right. 27 years of marriage, and how many years as a Catholic? Well, we don't know, but all that should have prepared you for this game. So we're going in reverse order today. Contestant number 1 is David Hedjadusik. David, are you with us?
I am. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks so much for being with us. And where are you calling from, and what's interesting about you?
I'm calling from the thriving metropolis of Helotes, Texas, which is right outside San Antonio.
Oh.
Cradle Catholic. Been married for a little bit over 30 years, and I have 3 wonderful young adult children.
Oh, well, that is great. And that booming metropolis, what do they do there? Like, what are you known for?
Driving into San Antonio to work.
Oh, so I see.
That happens a lot there.
I see. That's so, Jimmy. You're familiar with San Antonio, Texas?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
My father's father used to live in one of the suburbs there.
And contestants, you're both familiar with our super secret celebrity guest, Jimmy Akin? Oh,
indeed.
Was that some
I
shame?
even have a secret club they can join.
That's right. You can join the secret club, right? Jimmy has a secret club. Well, let's do the rules first of all. I know that the two of you are familiar with the rules.
All these rules,
Yeah,
man.
I know it's a rule-based religion, Jimmy. Real quick, we're going to play 3 rounds today, God willing. The first 2 rounds you play against one another. You'll have 3 questions each in round 1, 3 questions each in round 2. All of those are multiple choice questions. The player who gets the most right out of 6 is the winner of rounds 1 and 2 and goes on to round 3, which we call Final Judgment. So you're playing in the hopes of going on to Final Judgment.
And that needs to be the name of the show.
You think Final Judgment should be the name of the show?
Yeah, I mean, loads of game shows name themselves after their final segment. I mean, the $25,000 pyramid, you don't start playing for $25,000. That's the end goal.
Yeah.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You're not doing $1 million right at the beginning.
So Final Judgment, you don't think it's...
No.
Because I'm afraid that people will look on the schedule and it'll be like, Friday is Final Judgment, and then they're going to panic.
No, you just put the words game show after it on the schedule. Final Judgment game show.
That does tone it down a little bit. Yeah, because if Catholic Answers told me Final Judgment was coming up next Friday, I don't know what I would do. David and Eric, contestant 1 and contestant 2, you also have... not lifelines, we call them salvation lines here. If you are having trouble with one of the first 6 questions, you can do one of 2 things. You can ask Jimmy to eliminate one wrong answer, and he will do that. Or you can ask Jimmy just to give you the correct answer, and he will do that. The only catch there being Jimmy will have to say the correct answer in Pig Latin.
You don't want regular Latin?
I don't know that would be fair.
I don't speak Pig Latin.
That's what makes it fun, Jimmy. You should. I don't know if you heard Carlo on the last one speaking Pig Latin.
No,
but
I didn't.
It was an utter disaster, and that's what. No offense to Carlo, but he. Are all the?
I think by his own admission, it was a new experience.
Yeah, he had never done it before. All the rules to rounds 1 and 2 clear to you, gentlemen?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Let us begin then. Contestant number 1, that is David. Question number 1 for you. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. You need to let me read the entire question and all of the answers before you give your answer, please, only because we have people playing at home and we don't want them to miss out on the opportunity to hear all of the potential answers before they give their answer.
And also some of the answers could be tricky. You might hear one that sounds right, but then it's got a little thing you need to think about in it first.
Yes, I tried to be tricky on some of them. I actually went out of my way to be tricky. If you get a correct answer, you're going to hear this sound. And if you get the answer wrong, you're going to hear this sound. And we begin. Contestant number 1, David Hedjadusik, your first question. Evangelization means A, care for the poor. B, proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ. C, forgiving sins.
I'm going to go with B, proclaiming the good news.
You are correct.
Yeah, how about that?
And how do we get proclaiming the good news from evangelization, Jimmy?
Well, so the Greek word for gospel or good news is euangelion. And so that comes across into English as evangel, and therefore proclaiming the evangel or the good news is evangelization.
I gotcha.
With that, it's also got that Greek suffix on it, "iso," which is frequently used to mean a process making something.
Oh, so the "you" then
"you" means good,
like euphoria.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Okay, all right. Congratulations, David, contestant number 1. Contestant number 2, Eric, your first question: at what age are diocesan bishops required to submit their resignations? A, 80. B, 75. C, it's up to the bishop to decide for himself.
I'm almost certain it's A, 80.
Yeah, no, actually 80 is, and it's not surprising you might have some confusion on that point, because 80 is the age at which cardinals can no longer vote in a papal conclave. But bishops are required to see. I told you, I warned you, so I could be tricky. Bishops are required to submit their resignation to the Pope at age 75, but he isn't required to accept it then. So in some cases, they'll serve in office longer than 75.
So that means Eric has to go home now, right? We're done with Eric, or
No, he gets to keep going.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I needed some help with the rules there, Eric. I thought you were done. We go back to contestant number 1, David. David, your second question: who is the current Pope Emeritus? A. Francis. B. Benedict. C. No one. That title doesn't exist.
Whoa, that is a trick question. Oh, goodness. I'm going to ask Jimmy to eliminate an answer for me.
Okay. Ooh. I'm going to be nice, unlike Cy,
Thank you.
and eliminate an answer that should hopefully clarify it. I'm going to eliminate Francis. He's the current pope, not a Pope Emeritus.
That does not help me at all.
Oh, really?
Well, because I don't know that the emeritus is an official title, so that's why I'm kind of hanging on C there. But I'll go with Benedict B.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yes, you are correct. It is. So it would. You feel it would have been more helpful if Jimmy had said the no one. That was the one that was stumping you.
Yeah. I
Okay.
knew Francis was, and I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Fair
Emeritus
enough.
was an official title.
Well, official title would be debatable, but so this is another case of Cy being tricky. But colloquially, he's referred to as the Pope Emeritus, and that's based on other similar uses. If someone's like formerly a professor at a university, they're called a professor emeritus, and so forth.
All right, got to keep moving. We're still in the midst of round 1. We go now to contestant number 2, Eric Witt. Eric, your second question. What is one title for the Holy Spirit? A, Messiah. B, Paraclete. C, Queen of Mercy.
Okay, I should use a lifeline, but I'm going to go ahead and say B, Paraclete.
Paraclete, yeah, that's correct.
You are correct. I have no idea what that means, Jimmy.
The Greek word parakletos means a person who is called. Its etymology is it's a person who's called to your side. You call them, and the context was in courts. So you would call someone to help you in court, and that's why it's sometimes translated counselor. In English, like a counsel, you would have a counselor in court. It's also sometimes translated comforter. The root meaning, though, is one who's called alongside you. And surprisingly, a lot of people don't realize this, but the Holy Spirit is not the only person described in the New Testament as a paraclete. Cy Kellett for bonus points. Who is the other person in the New Testament described as a paraclete?
Jesus.
Yes, that's right. Jesus is our other paraclete.
I get a bonus point. I can give that bonus point to anyone I want, right?
If you made the rules, so sure.
Making them up as I go along. We're going to have to hold you in suspense. We are in the midst of round 1. Still a final question in round 1 to see who takes it. We're going to take a quick break at Catholic Answers Live. We'll be right back with our great big giant unnamed game show right after this.
This is Bishop James Conley of the Diocese of Lincoln. Keep it right here on Catholic Answers Live.
Pope Francis said, "The key that opens the door to faith is prayer." Join St. Paul Street Evangelization by running a prayer station in the public square. You don't need to be a professional apologist or theologian. Just listen to the needs of the people you encounter. Offer encouragement, take prayer requests, and pray with people. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Hello, my friends. Summer is here. That means summer reading. I have great news. Catholic Answers is having its first ever summer book sale in the online shop at Catholic.com. For a limited time, you can get dozens of great books offered at $10, $5, even as low as $1 a copy. Now is the time to load up on solid Catholic books for yourself, your friends, and your family. Save 50% or more on books by Jimmy Akin, Tim Staples, Rod Bennett, Gary Machuda, and a whole host of great authors. And my personal favorite, all the books in our Catholic Answers Classic series are marked down as well. Log on now and all this month to the store at shop.catholic.com and take advantage of our first ever summer sale. Log on today at shop.catholic.com.
Hi, this is Trent Horn, and I'm really excited to tell you about a special limited time offer we've got right now on subscriptions of our award-winning Catholic Answers magazine. Sign up today during our annual subscription drive, and not only can you save big bucks off the normal price, we'll give you a digital subscription of the magazine for free. Subscribe today by calling 818-487-2011 or by logging online to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com. Sign up for a 1-year subscription and we'll give you $10 off the normal price. But better yet, become a 2-year subscriber and we'll up the ante by dropping the price by $20. That's a savings of $10 to $20 plus a free digital subscription when you sign up for Catholic Answers Magazine. Act now because this is our best offer of the year and it's only available for a limited time. Subscribe to Catholic Answers Magazine before our annual subscription drive ends. Phone 818-487-2011 or go to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com.
Love that game show music. When you hear that game show music, you know it's time for the great big Catholic Answers as yet unnamed game show. I am Cy Kellett, your game show host. Our super secret celebrity guest this week is Jimmy Akin. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey there. It's not a secret anymore. I mean, you announced it.
Oh, that's true.
In fact, you announced it yesterday and Tuesday also.
I didn't say I'm good at keeping secrets. I just said it's super secret. Jimmy's most recent massive tome, well, you write. I shouldn't have said it that way. You have smaller books like the 20 Answers books, but your
large book,
recent
full-size book,
is A Daily Defense: 365 Days plus one to becoming a better apologist, and is among the prizes being offered in today's game show. We'll get to the prizes later. Our contestants are David Hegedusich and Eric Witt. They have each gone through the first 2 questions of round 1. We are now on question 3 of round 1. For David, your third question and final question of round 1. Catholics believe that after we die, A, we are freed forever from our bodies. B, we are separated from our bodies only for a time. C, we know we will be happy, but we don't know what happens to our bodies.
B, we're separated from our bodies for a time.
Nicely done.
Yeah, that's right. That's because we believe in the resurrection. You often hear this idea in our culture, and it's often in like cartoons and things, that when you die, a transparent version of you goes up to heaven and sits on a cloud forever, but that's not true.
A transparent, it's like, hey, I'm see-through Jimmy now.
Yeah, exactly, or Sue Storm.
Yeah.
And in actuality, we're going to be raised just like Jesus was. St. Paul says that apparently some people in the Corinthian church were confused about this, and so St. Paul tells them, how can you people be saying there's no resurrection when Jesus was raised?
Yeah.
And he's just the first fruits of the resurrection, the first fruits being the first part of a harvest.
Oh, yeah.
So we're the rest of the harvest, which will occur on the last day.
Looking forward to it. It's probably even better than the great big unnamed Catholic Answers game show. Your final question, Eric Witt of round 1. This concludes round 1 at the end of this question. Eric, the liturgical year begins A, on Easter, B, on Christmas, C, on the first Sunday of Advent.
I would say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and use Jimmy here and have him give me the answer this time.
Oh, so you
this
just
is my
want
last question.
You just want him to tell you the answer.
Yeah.
And you know that he has to do it in Pig Latin.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to do that.
Okay, thank you. God bless you for that, brother. Thanks. Jimmy Akin, in Pig Latin, the correct answer is?
Nioe ide erst fe unde se feoe venint a.
Nicely done. What about a little applause in the control room for Jimmy Akin? That was impressive. So having heard the correct answer in Pig Latin, Eric, you say?
C, Advent. Was it C?
Yes, C, on the first Sunday
Sunday
of
of
Advent.
Advent.
You are correct. We have now concluded the first round. Our score stands 3 correct answers out of 3 for David, 2 correct answers out of 3 for Eric. Is that correct? Everyone recognize that as correct?
Yep.
All righty. We move on now to round 3. Some of your lifelines have been used.
Round 2.
Excuse me, we move on to round 2. I apologize. Some of your lifelines have been used, some remain. Question number 1 for contestant number 1, that would be David. David, your question to start round 2. 3 of the apostles were present for the transfiguration. They were A, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. B, Peter, Paul, and John. C, John, Peter, and James. Or D, John, Paul, and Ringo.
I'm going to go with C on this one.
Peter, John, and James is the correct answer.
You are right, but I changed the order of them because I always think people think Peter, James, and John. They go together, right?
They do.
But if I changed it,
it would sound a little. You'd have to think about it more.
Yeah, right.
And so that was another side being tricky, but he got the right answer, which is awesome. It's it's interesting in this case. Peter's brother Andrew doesn't get to go.
What's that about?
And he was one of the core 4 as well. So he didn't actually get to go on every occasion, and you kind of wonder how he must have felt about that.
Because we never thought of that, but I do kind of.
We know because they argued about it. Who's the greatest, and had probably some kind of verbal rap battle smackdown about it. But,
yeah. I'm sure.
But we know there were some kind of rivalries among the 12. This was a kind of a sensitive issue.
So maybe Andrew had gotten himself in trouble somehow.
Maybe.
We don't
Something
know.
to think about.
I would love to hear some Aramaic rap battles, though. Eric, your first question of round 2. Baptism does not, and I'm not trying to trick you on this one, so I want to be clear. You need to tell me what baptism does not do. Okay, Eric?
Okay.
All right. Question 1. Baptism does not, A, make us a Christian. B, make us members of a parish. C, make us heirs of heaven.
I would say B, make us members of a parish.
That's right. Yeah.
You are correct.
Joining a parish is a different thing.
And
it is, at least it's not intrinsically accomplished by baptism. Now, if, let's say, you're being baptized in a parish as a baby, let's say you're going to be written on that parish's baptismal register, and you're going to count for canon law purposes as a member of that parish, but that's not intrinsic to baptism.
Right.
Because if you're being baptized on a desert island and there's no parish there, you're not suddenly miraculously attached to a parish in your hometown or something.
St. Mary's of Desert Island. You could just name it your own parish.
I think that was on Gilligan's Island.
Did they have a St. Mary's there on Gilligan's Island?
I think the professor was secretly a priest.
Oh,
there were a lot of priest scientists,
There, I know.
Father George Lemaitre, for example.
Right, and Gregor Mendel.
Yeah,
right. All right, question number 2, round 2 for David. David, your question. Apostolic succession. A, is given to the Pope alone as the head of the Church. B, is handed on by the laying on of hands. C, ended when the last apostle died.
B, passed on with the laying of hands.
You are correct. And
That's correct.
This is the strangest game show moment in history, because at the same exact moment that you gave the correct answer, our chaplain came in to bless the chapel, which he does once a month.
With holy water.
With holy
an
water.
aspergill.
So that was a blessed answer that
I
you
wasn't
gave.
close enough to get splashed, though. I'm disappointed.
I know. I was surprised he didn't go after you with
We
it.
didn't get the laying on of hands, though.
No, we did not.
Yeah. But
And
that's the correct answer to this question.
the correct answer, laying on of hands.
Through episcopal ordination.
So you are a successor to the apostles if you're a bishop, not
right.
just if you're the Pope.
Correct.
And you knew it.
And it obviously
David?
didn't end when the last apostle died, or it wouldn't be apostolic succession, because no one would have succeeded.
Oh, well, I knew you
the
would
apostles.
get that. Yeah. Okay, question number 2 for you, Eric. Mary Magdalene was A, the wife of Herod Antipas. B, liberated from demons by Jesus. C, the first person to see Jesus walk on water.
Ooh, Oh wait. Okay, that was a trick question.
Yeah,
let me go with B. I thought you were going to say something else. But...
You are right.
B is correct. Yeah. We don't know whose wife she was. In fact, she probably was not anybody's wife. And the way we know that is because of the way she's referred to as Mary Magdalene, Mary of Magdala. Magdala is a place. And ordinarily in Jewish culture, if you were female, you would be called after one of your male relations, either your husband if you were married or your father if you were not married. And so, you could be Mary, the wife of Joseph.
Yeah.
Or Mary, the daughter of Saul,
yeah.
or whatever. But the fact Mary Magdalene is called Mary of Magdala tells us where she's from, Magdala, which is a little city on the north side of the Sea of Galilee. But it also tells us she didn't have a husband, she didn't have a father. She also, and the tricky part was, she was the first person to see Jesus after he rose from the dead, but not the first person to see him walk on water.
And Eric, you handled that like a pro. For a second, you were taken in, but then you were like, no, not walk on water. That is not correct. Nicely done, Eric.
Gotta pay attention.
I'm going to have to create a new thing called the speed question, because we're going to come up on a hard break pretty soon. So
yeah.
I'm going to read you your question. You don't have to go fast. I'm just going to read it real quick to you here. Your third question in round 2, David, is God told St. Paul that my grace is sufficient for you because Paul asked, A, that God free him from prison, B, that God take away a thorn in his flesh, or C, that God send him missionary helpers. Is that question clear to you, David?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I think I know the answer, but since this is the last question, I'm going to use my lifeline and have Jimmy answer it for me.
Okay, so the answer is athe, adge, ekte, way, ornthe, in a, is he, eshfle.
We need some applause for that. Jimmy, very nicely done. Does that help you, David?
Yes, remove the thorn from the flesh.
Very good.
It was, right? Yeah.
We have to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more of Catholic Answers' still unnamed game show with the final question of round 2 for Eric right after this.
Catholic Answers Live.
Sharing the gospel with family and friends can be challenging. It's especially hard when they won't even hear you out because of all the mental roadblocks they've built up. This is Carlo Broussard, and in my new book, Prepare the Way, my aim is to help you tackle that essential first step to apologetics and evangelization, getting people to listen with an open mind. Even our best witness can bounce right off folks like these if we don't prepare the way first, breaking down barriers and leaving minds and souls free to encounter the truth. I'll give you evidence and arguments and step-by-step strategies based on asking the right questions to help them overcome their obstacles and make a straight path for the Lord. Order your copy of Prepare the Way today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
God helps those who help themselves. Preach the gospel always. When necessary, use words. We all hear sayings like these, and we assume they come from the Bible, the saints, or famous Christian writers. Nobody can seem to place their origin, but by sheer repetition, they've acquired a halo of truth. In my new book, What the Saints Never Said, I look at over 40 of these well-known sayings and track them back to their original sources. You'll be surprised at what I found. Some are close to what was really said. Many were misattributed or twisted beyond their original meaning, and more than a few of these sayings were simply made up. I hope by setting the record straight, I can make you aware of the theological errors that can lead us away from the faith and offer you authentic quotes from Scripture, saints, and scholars that will draw you closer to our faith. Get your copy of What the Saints Never Said by calling 1-888-291-8000, by visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or by asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
I went to Las Vegas years and years ago for one of these cable shows, and I was shocked to see all these old ladies in their 70s and 80s getting off that plane, running for a slot machine. You don't have a chance to win. They're all fixed. I know, my uncle used to have slot machines.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Yeah. Those are the smooth sounds of the Catholic Answers as yet unnamed game show. We might not be able to afford a title for the show, but it's still the most important game show on the face of the earth. Science proves it. I am Cy Kellett, your host. We're in the midst of our game show. Our super secret celebrity guest is Jimmy Akin. Jimmy is the senior apologist here at Catholic Answers. Recently celebrated his 25th anniversary of coming to Catholic Answers, and he's the author of A Daily Defense, 365 Days Plus One to Becoming a Better Apologist, which, by the way, when we finish round 2, we will have one contestant going on to play round 3, and one will receive a prize, a parting prize, and it will be a signed copy. I didn't tell you you had to sign a book, Jimmy. Sorry.
You're changing the rules on me
I know.
now.
I come from a big
Happy
family.
to do it.
We change the rules all the time. A signed copy of A Daily Defense, 365 days plus one to becoming a better apologist. We go now to Eric. Your final question of round 2, and then we'll sum it all up. Eric, from the first 2 rounds, your question: Peter taught that what covers a multitude of sins? A, sorrow. B, prayer. C, love.
What did you say A was again?
Okay, let me just give you the whole question. Peter taught that what covers a multitude of sins? A, sorrow. B, prayer. C, love.
Wow, I'm going to have Jimmy take one of those away.
Okay, I'm going to be nice and take the one that is probably the most helpful answer, misleading answer away.
Okay.
It is not prayer.
Okay, it is not prayer. I love that answer, Jimmy. Okay, so you have 2.
I mean, I'm not saying prayer wouldn't do it, but that's not the Bible verse you're thinking of.
No, right. What is it? It's in the first letter of St. Peter?
That's right.
That's
yeah.
where he says it. So is it that sorrow covers a multitude of sins, or love covers a multitude of sins? Eric?
Well, thanks for taking that away. It leaves me with love.
Hey, good.
And
well,
that's all you need.
As John Lennon said. Well, let's sum them up. Can we use the Catholic Answers supercomputer, please, to sum up how we did in rounds 2? There were 6 questions in round 2. The rule is whoever gets the most out of 6 correct moves on to round 3. The second place finisher receives a fantastic prize, a signed copy of A Daily Defense, 365 Days Plus One to Becoming a Better Apologist. What does the supercomputer say? The winner is? David, you, without missing a single question, a perfect score. You are the winner of rounds 1 and 2. Thank you so much, David. Eric,
Thank you.
Eric, will you stay on the line and make sure that you give Marie your address so we can send you a signed copy of A Daily Defense?
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks.
All right. We really appreciate it. Love does indeed cover a multitude of sins. We move now to round 3, and let me explain. Round 3 is super complicated. You need a college degree to understand it. I'm going to ask you, David, 7 true or false questions. Each question you will be playing for a prize. If you get the question right, you get the prize. If you get the question wrong, you don't.
Is that fair?
I wonder if that is fair. I feel like it's fair to David. Do you feel like that's a fair way to do it, David?
As long as I get a trophy at the end.
Oh, everybody gets a trophy, man. Okay, very good.
Don't make promises you have no intention of keeping.
Well, at some point in your life, you'll get a trophy. That's what I meant. Final Judgment is the name of this. So we are about to pass Final Judgment on you, David. 7 true or false questions. If you get each question that you get correct, you win the corresponding prize too. If you get all 7 correct, you win, in addition to all 7 prizes, a $50 gift certificate to shop.catholic.com. David, I know that is intense, but are you prepared?
I'm ready. My heart is racing.
Okay.
You need a beta blocker.
Exactly.
Your first question, true or false question, David, you are playing for Why God Still Matters, a DVD from Carlo Broussard. Why God Still Matters. True or false, David? Jesus said, salvation is from the Jews.
I'm going to say false.
Oh, no, I'm afraid he actually did say that. He said it to the Samaritan woman when he was having a conversation with her, because there was a controversy between Samaritans and Jews about where they were supposed to worship God. The Jews said that you were supposed to worship God on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and the Samaritans said that you were supposed to worship at the temple on Mount Gerizim in Samaria. In fact, they still worship there. They go up there every Passover and kill the Passover lambs.
Mean.
But this is a divinely ordained thing.
I apologize.
But Jesus indicated that in the future, neither place was going to be where God wanted. But he did acknowledge the unique role of the Jewish people in God's plan of salvation, and thus said salvation is from the Jews. It's not surprising that one might struggle with that a bit, because St. Paul said a lot of things on the same topic.
I
like
see.
Salvation is first for the Jews and then for the Gentile.
I see. I gotcha. So a similar sounding kind of thing. David, you ready for question number 2?
I am.
Also a true or false question, and you're playing for Trent Horn's book, Why We're Catholic.
Hold it up to the microphone so people can see it on the radio.
Oh. Jimmy Aiken, I totally just followed his directions, and now I look like a fool on the whole internet. The book is Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love by Trent Horn. I'm holding it up to the camera, not the microphone now. True or false, David? The Bible gives Mary the title Mother of God.
That is false.
That is false.
You
is
are
true.
Correct. But I thought, Jimmy, she is the Mother of God.
She is. The Bible just doesn't give her that title.
Oh.
And so that's an inference. It's something that's not made explicit in the Bible, but it is implied by biblical principles.
Nicely done. Is that what did you know that, David? That it was something that we understand from the principles of the Bible, but is never stated in the Bible?
Yes.
Oh, you're smart then. All right.
Were you suggesting I was just guessing?
I wasn't suggesting
He was
a
totally
thing.
suggesting that. I mean, totally.
Look, I'm the guy who just held a book up to the microphone so
dissing
people
you,
could
man.
see it on the radio. You're not. I'm not the critic of anyone. Question number 3. You're playing for Behold Your Mother, a biblical and historical defense of the Marian doctrines. That is by Tim Staples, the director of apologetics and evangelization here, who is currently recovering from surgery, and we're keeping him in our prayers. Seems to be doing very, very well. Your question, David, true or false? All popes after Peter have been elected by the College of Cardinals.
I'm going to say that's false.
That's false is true.
No, that's confusing. It is false.
Well, you hear the ding. That means he got it right.
Yeah, right.
So we don't exactly know the details of how all of the early popes after Peter were elected. We don't have the records. We have some indications. We know that, like, the clergy of Rome was involved in picking them at some point, but the College of Cardinals hadn't yet developed historically, so it wasn't around to elect some of the early ones.
Okay, David, big shot. Were you guessing on that one, or did you know it?
No, I assumed that the College of Cardinals didn't exist back in the early days.
All right. Okay.
Is there a strategy of just, when you ask a question like that, just repeat whatever I just said in other words? Because that would be a successful strategy. Oh. I think he's a smart guy.
Your fourth question, you are playing now for Carlo Broussard's brand new book, Prepare the Way, Overcoming Obstacles to God, the Gospel, and the Church. Your question number 4, David, true or false? Reincarnation is not accepted as real by the Catholic Church.
I'll say that's a true statement.
It's true. It is not accepted as real.
So,
although that's a kind of a tricky question. I mean, when I first saw these the other day after you wrote them, it's like as real.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I kind of snagged on that and thought, okay, I got to.
Maybe you could tell me these things before we're on nationally broadcast radio.
I did tell you to rephrase the bishop one.
Yes, that's true. I had, I sent my questions out for some people to look at them because
I didn't want to nitpick.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But you are not bothered at all by my quirky wording of things, and I do have a quirky way of wording things. You, David, have
a unique style.
A unique style called Next, you are playing for a book called Mass Revision. That is by our own Jimmy Akin.
We have physical copies of that to send people?
Oh, wait, what's it called now?
Well, no, it's called Mass Revision, but I don't know that we have physical copies in stock.
Really? I was told I could give any book in the catalog. Should I give The Drama of Salvation instead?
Let's do that.
Okay, let's give you The Drama of Salvation, a fantastic book by Jimmy Akin. And if we have a physical copy, I'll also send you Mass Revision. True or false? Pope John Paul II often spoke of the new evangelization.
That's true.
Yeah, that is true. That, along with theology of the body, was one of his pet phrases that he introduced into general church discourse from his personal idiolect.
Okay, Data. So we're going to need the supercomputer to break that one down for me, please.
Idios is Greek for one's own or personal,
right.
And idiolect is a term linguists use for the way an individual person speaks. It's slurring together of idios for personal and dialect, your personal dialect.
And another big one that I don't know if he coined it, but he certainly used it a lot, was culture of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely popularized that.
Yeah. And I thought it worked really well. Mm-hmm. That was a very good pro-life kind of term for people. Well, we're up to question number 6 out of your 7 questions, but we have to take a break. So can you stand the suspense to wait for your 2 questions, David?
I'll hang in there.
Okay.
I've come this far.
All right. Just put your head down between your knees. If it's too exciting, we will be right back with more of the Catholic Answers as yet untitled game show with super secret celebrity guest Jimmy Akin right after this.
Stay with us for more Catholic Answers Live.
Summer is upon us, and though the temperatures are going up, the prices are coming down during Catholic Answers' first ever summer book sale in the online shop at Catholic.com. For a limited time, dozens of great books are available for $10, $5, even as low as $1 a copy. This is the time to load up on solid Catholic books for you, your friends, and your family. The spectacular online event offers savings of 50% and more on books by Jimmy Akin, Tim Staples, Rod Bennett, Gary Michuta, and a whole host of esteemed authors, evangelists, and apologists. We've even got all of the books in our Catholic Answers Classics series marked down. Log on now to shop.catholic.com and take advantage of what will be one of the most exciting sales of the summer. You know it's all good stuff because it's from the people you know and trust at Catholic Answers. Log on to shop.catholic.com and start saving today.
Hi, this is Trent Horn, and I'm really excited to tell you about a special limited-time offer we've got right now on subscriptions of our award-winning Catholic Answers magazine. Sign up today during our annual subscription drive, and not only can you save big bucks off the normal price, we'll give you a digital subscription of the magazine for free. Subscribe today by calling 818-487-2011 or by logging online to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com. Sign up for a 1-year subscription, and we'll give you $10 off the normal price. But better yet, become a 2-year subscriber, and we'll up the ante by dropping the price by $20. That's a savings of $10 to $20 plus a free digital subscription when you sign up for Catholic Answers Magazine. Act now because this is our best offer of the year, and it's only available for a limited time. Subscribe to Catholic Answers Magazine before our annual subscription drive ends. Phone 818-487-2011 or go to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com.
Welcome back. That's not our usual music, and if you're surprised to hear it, well, every now and then now we do a game show on Fridays where we invite a super secret celebrity guest to come in and help our contestants answer questions, and also to give us some insights into those questions and answers. Our guest today is Jimmy Akin, our senior apologist here at Catholic Answers. He is I was going to say he's currently helping, but not in round 3. In round 3, we don't offer help. We just let you answer a true or false question. And so our remaining contestant...
I'm facilitating by adding badinage.
I have no words. I have no words. You're adding what?
Badinage.
Well, I'm glad you're adding
repartee, wordplay.
Oh,
between
okay.
You and me.
Badinage. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was supposed to hit a dump button when you said that. Frankly, I don't know if EWTN is saying you can't use that language on the air. David Hedjadusik. is our guest. I'm sorry that I struggle with your name, David. David Hedjadusek. Are you there with us, David?
I sure am.
You're kind of killing it. Out of the entire show today,
No wrong questions.
One. Salvation is from the Jews. No.
That's right. Yeah, in the
yeah,
round three. Yeah.
Salvation is from the Jews. Yeah, but you're definitely killing it. You got 2 more prizes available for you to win. Question number 6 of the True or False. You're playing for Why Catholic Bibles Are Bigger, the revised 2nd edition of Gary Machuda's. Gary Machuda's.
Got a little
I got a little Boston there
accent,
for a second.
Yeah.
Thought it was
Erotic
over that.
accent.
Why Catholic Bibles Are Bigger, the revised 2nd edition of Gary Machuda's fine book. Your true or false question is this. True or false, David? Jesus could control the weather.
That's another one of your trick questions.
Wait, can I just say something?
Could.
Can I just say something real quick here, David? Just between you and me. This is not a trick question.
This is not trick. Yeah, this is easy.
I'll say true, he could.
You are
Yeah,
correct,
that's
sir.
right.
Do you have any examples of that in mind?
Calming the storm, I guess. Yeah.
There you go. I'm sure that's one that Cy was thinking about as well.
That is the one.
Jesus could control the weather better than HAARP.
But that's a conspiracy theory, Jimmy
Yeah.
Akin. You're just having conspiracy theories on our program today. Now, listen, David, when you said it was, you kind of panicked me when you said you thought it was a trick question. You were probably going to say that his human nature couldn't control the weather, but his divine nature could, or something like that. Is that what you were thinking I was trying to get to?
Well, and I was even thinking more in our current age of does he make hurricanes and thunderstorms that
right.
dump on top of my house?
Yeah. So actually, Jimmy, could you explain that? Because there's different ways. I mean, everything is dependent on God, but there
Right.
are things that God permits but doesn't cause.
Yeah, and so one way of looking at natural disasters, and I actually have a section in A Daily Defense that's devoted to this. A lot of things that we consider natural disasters are because of human perspective that we assume. Really, it's just energy moving around. And God did set up the laws of physics to move energy around the way we see in our universe. So in a broad sense, God is certainly in control because he could stop something by intervening in nature and, stop a storm like he actually did. But that doesn't mean he's up in heaven pushing a button to make each hurricane come down on your house or something like that.
Oh, if there was a hurricane button, I would push it. I just don't think I could resist, Jimmy. It would be so much
hurricane
fun
button?
to push the hurricane button, start a hurricane. I'm a terrible person. I know.
Just do it on planets that don't have people.
Is this repartee, or what's the other? What's
Yeah.
the word for it? Bamboo.
Badinage.
Badinage. Okay. Badinage. I'll be looking that one up.
We
when I
can
get home.
engage in some airy persiflage later if you want.
I don't think I do want to.
Okay.
I'm scared of it. I feel like I'll crash land. David, you got one more question left. So you're playing this time for the book that Jimmy just mentioned, A Daily Defense, 365 Days plus 1 to Becoming a Better Apologist. Are you ready and prepared?
I am, as long as you're not going to ask me to define any of those words that Jimmy's using.
No, I will not make you define any of those words. But you know what?
True.
I don't think he could say them in Pig Latin. So, and I'm not going to. I'm not asking.
Persiflage pay.
Oh, darn it!
Badinage pay.
All right, David. True or false? You ready? True or false? Jesus, Peter, and Paul were all executed by Roman authorities. David? David?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
No, I know you're thinking about. I want to say something again because I feel very worried about you. This too, not a trick question. I don't want you to think I'm tricking you because we've emphasized that a lot, and I'm not trying to trick you on this one.
I'm going to go with true on this one.
Oh, David, you are correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, good.
Jesus was executed by the Roman authorities in AD 33. Peter was executed by the Roman authorities around AD 65 or 66, and Paul was executed by the Roman authorities around the year AD 67.
So I guess not a very good record for Roman authorities, but they did. They did good stuff
kept
too.
knocking on these good guys.
Yeah, but they did keep their trains running on time. David, want me to tell you about
the Romans had no trains?
Oh, they had no trains?
Yeah.
Wagon trains?
They were
nothing like
that's a different kind of
trains of thought. David, let me tell you some of the things that you've won. A Daily Defense, Jimmy Akin's fine book, Why Catholic Bibles Are Bigger by Gary Machuder. Prepare the Way, Carlo Broussard's fine book. Behold Your Mother. This is a virtual Catholic library you have won today. And Why We're Catholic from Trent Horn. Does that make you happy, David?
That's fantastic. Those are all great resources.
All righty. Well, I appreciate you playing. Stay on the line just to make sure that we have all of your data correct and we can send those things out to you.
Congratulations. And
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Congratulations to all the listeners playing along at home for their efforts as well.
We really do want you to play along at home. David, we'll send you on your way with those gifts with our thanks and congratulations. You're the second winner of the Catholic Answers as Yet Unnamed game show. If you played along at home and you got all of the answers correct, send us an envelope with a record of that and $500 in it, and we will send you an envelope with $400 in it. That is,
what a deal.
We're guaranteed to do that for you.
I'd take that deal.
If you're a small child, ask your mother to explain that before you ask her to send the envelope, okay?
Yeah, and look up soupy sales on Wikipedia, too.
Jimmy, the references flying hot and heavy from you today. You are on fire.
Yeah, not
Jimmy
literally.
Del Fuego.
So I have a present for you.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
This is a present of knowledge.
Okay.
And yesterday on the show, you mentioned that growing up, your favorite dinosaur was the Brontosaurus.
That's right. Right, yeah.
And now I like Brontosaurus just fine. My favorite dinosaur growing up was the Triceratops.
Oh.
The one thing that the Brontosaurus and the Triceratops have in common is they were both initially described scientifically and named by a man named Othniel Marsh. And Othniel Marsh was one of the participants in what were called the Bone Wars. He and another guy named Ed Cope were rich guys in the 19th century, and they got in this conflict with each other where they were trying to outdo each other by discovering the most dinosaur species. And they would hire these cowboys to go out in the West, in Wyoming and Kansas and places, and dig up fossils for them.
Wow!
And they got really bitter. At one point, Marsh humiliated Cope by pointing out that he'd put the head of a dinosaur on the end of its tail.
How is this not a movie, Jimmy Akin?
Well, it should be.
This is
they would do things like bribe people, to send me the fossils instead of him, and they would destroy fossils, and it got really bitter.
Wow.
And they ended up bankrupting themselves and humiliating themselves in public. But it provided this huge service for science with more than 100 new species that were classified for the first time. And Marsh actually won. He got more species than Cope did. But Marsh's species, because of the conflict, they were really rushing to describe these species. They didn't take a lot of time. And the Brontosaurus was one of those. It had kind of a rushed description. It was very similar to a dinosaur that Marsh had already classified called the Apatosaurus. Looks very much like a Brontosaurus. And so after the Bone Wars were over, in 1903, another guy came in and said, the Brontosaurus is too close to count as a different species than an Apatosaurus. And because of the rules of the naming convention, that means the term Brontosaurus theoretically went away, and all those fossils were going to be called Apatosauruses. And so that explains the story that you mentioned yesterday, hearing that the Brontosaurus doesn't exist, it's been reclassified and so forth. Well, the thing is, in 2015, here's where the
this
present
is
of
getting
knowledge
good
comes.
now. Here we go.
In 2015, a study was published by some scientists who took almost 500 measurements of Brontosaurus fossils, these different characteristics they were looking at, and they concluded, based on, among other things, differences in the head and neck, that indeed Brontosauruses are a different species than Apatosaurus. Now,
they're back?
Yeah. Now, it's not everyone agrees. Some people are still saying we need to do more work on Apatosauruses, but broadly speaking, Brontosauruses have been considered resurrected in the scientific sense.
Jimmy, that is a present.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're making my Friday. That is great.
I also have a theory about Brontosauruses.
Okay.
I got it from Miss Ann Elk.
Are you going to share it? Jimmy, your theory of...
Well, it's hers. It's Miss Ann Elk's theory.
I am so confused right now. Miss Ann Elk?
Yeah. Ann Elk, brackets, Miss Brackets.
And elk brackets, Miss Brackets.
Do you want to know her theory?
Yes.
Okay, so her theory is all brontosauruses are thin at one end, much, much thicker in the middle, and thin again at the far end.
That is a brilliant theory. She's a scientist, isn't she?
Yeah, it hits the nail on its head, doesn't it?
Boy, it sure does. I'm glad that Brontosaurus might be. Did you have, like, in the 1960s, there were children's books that I don't think they were very good at color then. So they were usually like 3-color books, but they could really, I loved the ones that showed anything with space, like, this is what moon bases will look like in the future. And
in the 1990s.
Yeah, right, by the 1990s. And the dinosaur ones. And I guess there's some drawing of a brontosaurus that caught my eye because brontosaurus was my favorite as a kid. It also could be that it's the biggest, and I always was obsessed with biggest and best.
Yeah, well, these days it's not the biggest.
What?
They're bigger
You ruined
ones,
everything.
But it's in the same general class as a brontosaurus.
Well, I just hope somebody will find their DNA and bring them all back. And
that would be cool.
That'd be awesome. You haven't seen Jurassic World, have you?
Yeah, I did. That one's set in San Diego.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, Jimmy Akin has been our super secret celebrity guest. The secret is out. That is who it was. Thank you so much to Eric and to David who played our game show.
Yeah.
I think we're getting better at this game show. I like it. I'm going to keep it. Your feedback is always welcome at radio@catholic.com. If you'd like to appear as a contestant on the game show, just join Radio Club. Go to CatholicAnswersLive.com and sign up for Radio Club. Thank you, Jimmy. I enjoyed being with you, I think, 3 times this week.
Yeah, unusual, but always a pleasure.
And very welcome. Jesus Christ is the light of the nations, and we'll see you next time on Catholic Answers Live.